I'm back in this beautiful field again because I felt so inspired by the nature, and the last recording that we did here was so magical. So I came back to my little studio to record, to be in peace, to connect with the elements, just be in this beautiful space. So blessed. Recording studios are beautiful, but if you don't have one, you have this. So cool. Hello. Welcome back to Pixie's podcast. Now happy to be in this space where I'm also recording visually. That was always a vision of mine, to have the space and the capacity within myself to have the confidence to go on a screen and not just share my voice. So here I am back in this beautiful field that I came to the other day with Jose to record episode 6 of my podcast, which is now live on my YouTube, and which Jose will also be sharing on his socials too. So yeah, I felt so inspired by the little studio that we set up with hay bales and just in nature. It just happens to be in the shade. It's really hot here now at the moment, so I'm in a farmer's field surrounded by hay bales with a self-made studio, and it's just kind of amazing how you can actually create whatever you want. And the limitations sometimes that we use to procrastinate and to avoid doing the things that we have to do with courage are usually just excuses, because, of course, it's nice to have a recording studio. And we also have the capacity to create these environments and spaces wherever we are, really, in nature. I mean, of course, for this kind of thing, privacy is nice and important. To have quiet and minimal noise is super nice. So I've come into nature today because I live in a community house and there's a lot going on there. I don't always feel like I can freely create these videos because there's interruptions and everything. So this is the perfect space to come and to share and to basically, and to basically talk about the topics I'm really seeing in the collective at the moment as we shift and integrate into these new frequencies, and some of the words that I'm picking up on in mostly like people within the spiritual world, actually, people who have been doing a lot of work, who are self-aware, but are still battling with this acceptance and integration of shadow aspects, and how that is reflected in the way that they see the world and the words that are used. And it's really, for me, clear to see that when there's so much fear around the darkness, it's of course because the darkness is not being faced within, and essentially we become afraid of our own shadow, afraid of our own darkness, until we go through the process of facing our shadow and darkness and then integrating that, and then having the capacity to see the reflections from the external world with the lens of compassion. Of course, that takes a lot of self-work, self-reflection, and also a unified perspective to be able to take that standpoint where you're like, okay, forgiveness for me, forgiveness for them, and also compassion from a place of understanding, whereby you know why the behaviors are being expressed, because you maybe expressed those behaviors before and you know the place that they came from. I've been hearing these words flying around now in the environment that I'm in, around entities, around ego, around spiritual ego, around darkness and evil, and all of these things, which I feel is valid, because I of course live in this world, and my experiences have not always been light and fluffy. They've also been dark and deep. But when we take this standpoint that every experience is an experience that is an opportunity to expand and grow and to self-reflect on the why, on why we're in these movies that are playing out in the physical reality, why these crazy things happen, and when we can really do that, it becomes such an empowering process to become accountable for the participation that you have had in your own reality, whereby you're faced with mirrors that are really loud and possibly triggering. The darkness triggers and it opens up a capacity for the light. So this word entities, like what I've seen in my journey of exploring this world, the underworld, the spiritual world, and all of these things, is that when you become empowered, things like entities, these kinds of labels that we give to basically what is another person or our unhealed trauma, unhealed wounds, inner child, creating drama. When I first started to do my work to separate the conditioned version of me that was created by my parents, by the way that I was brought up, by the choices that I made based on my conditioning. When I started to separate that version of me from the version of me that I now see as my essence, was my inner child, and I was really resistant over this aspect of me. I was like, oh my gosh, this person, this one is so fucking naughty. Like, she's really disruptive. She creates chaos. And when I realized that was my inner child that I was talking about, the little girl inside of me that just wanted to be seen by me, not by everyone else, by me, because I realized that all of the choices that I was making up until that point, not all of them, but a lot of the choices that I was making up until that point with my sport, with work, with relationships, all of these kinds of things, were coming from a place of looking for acceptance or validation externally, because that was also the way that I was brought up. And when I realized and took my power back from all those things, it eliminated the I've lost track now. Back on track. When I created that separation between my conditioned self and my inner child, who was, like I said, really destructive and trying to make a noise to get my attention, when I started to give her space to express, when I started to see her and understand why she was making so much noise, why she was trying to get my attention. Actually, she was trying to get my attention to bring me back on track. Actually, the noise comes from a place of disharmony and misalignment through the choices, the conditioned choices that I was making. My inner child's like, no, trying to create these to get my attention. When you can separate those things and start to, like I said, make space and accept the behaviors that you're observing within yourself, suddenly you start to become aware of the why, and you start to have compassion for yourself. And little by little, I'm not saying that this is a process that happens in one sitting whereby we can integrate our shadow in one moment, but the more layers that you take off, the more that you are facing your shadow, the more that you are integrating your shadow, and the more capacity that you have to show up in this world in an empowered state, and also to see the reflections of others through the lens of compassion. Like I said, it's not always easy, especially when there are projected behaviors around you, but here you also have a choice. You also have a choice then of who, when you get to the state of loving yourself so much that you don't allow allow other people's projections to impact on you, you then also get a choice as to who you have in your life and whether you have people in your life who project onto you. And these are the things that little by little, when you make these choices and create these safe spaces externally based on your internal space and the way that you show up for yourself, and having the standard of, okay, I don't expect somebody to change for me, but this is how I show up for me. This is what brings me peace. And actually for me to connect with somebody is a requirement that this person meets me there and they also have that level of love for themselves, because when you have that level of love for yourself on all levels, it then reflects to the other person. That's how we create unity. That's how we reflect love. It really starts from, okay, having the courage to face your shadow, having the courage to say, why are these specific things scaring me? What is it? What is the memory within my body that creates a fear response? Or is it maybe my language? Or is it maybe just some choices or behaviors? Or have I not fully allowed the space for this shadow to come through so that it is fully seen? We can dip into the shadow a little bit, but if there's a lot to heal from, a lot of trauma, then we have to go fully in, because to shift the operating system from your mind to your heart has to be healed. Otherwise the coherence isn't there. So all of these things take a lot of courage. I understand why people project onto the external world, because it makes it easier, but on the surface, but on the long run, unless you take accountability for the things that you're looking at, for your perception, for the way that you view the world, then you won't get to a point where you integrate your own shadow and can expand beyond those fears and really, really, really move into a space of love. So yeah, it's also ego, like I heard the phrase spiritual ego yesterday, and I feel like ego has been demonized so much, but actually as humans, we are shifting the way that we need to live, but ego really is just the physical kind of masculine aspects of being in this world. So it's not, for me, this journey of unity, of expansion, it's not about eliminating ego. Ego is not a bad thing. It's when people are moving from the wrong place and they project their characters or their ways or their behaviors onto people, then it's a problem. But for example, if you didn't have an ego, then you wouldn't think to brush your teeth in the morning, you wouldn't think to care for yourself, to go to the shop to get food, to buy clothes. These are normal human things. The term ego is demonized when you're talking about people who have unhealed trauma. It always comes back to the same thing. If you're moving from a space where there's energy within you that wants to be seen, it will keep creating the loops and the noise and the realities within your physical reality to bring you back to your center. It's an opportunity to expand beyond. So it's just a message to really, in those moments where you're projecting all of these fears, entities, egos, gossip, it's, actually hang on a second. How am I seeing the world? What am I choosing to focus on? Actually, how am I behaving? Am I behaving in some ways that I'm saying that other people are? More than likely, otherwise it wouldn't be such a strong desire to talk about it. Usually the things that we're talking about, we have a moment of self-reflection. It's like, oh, hang on a second, I'm doing this. I realized in my relationship, we were going through a really big transformation together, and it was like continuously trying to coach each other and, like projecting on the other person all the time of the things that need to change. And I realized, wow, I can't actually change another person, but what I can do is I can choose to show up differently in the conversations, in the moments where I'm noticing confrontation. How can I take my power back from feeding that, and then I'm not charging that anymore? Maybe then I'm observing it, and then in that moment I get a choice to say, hey, this is not actually me now, I'm just observing, or to take myself out of that. But this journey of expansion for me is all about acceptance and accountability, and taking power and control back from one, feeling the need to have power over people, to be in control, and to control others. Like, these are all key themes that I've seen in every single dynamic medicine ceremony that I've done. The message is always the same. Collectively, on a human level, the ego, if you're not complete and whole, if you don't feel fully loved within yourself, you try and get power and control from other people. It's basically as simple as that. It's really not that complex. Like the shadow and the ego, it's really simple. It's all about seeing yourself. It's all about creating safety within yourself, accepting yourself, so you're not looking outside for external validation. All of these little things, these are all self things. These are not about anyone else. When you do these things in your own inner world, you do notice that your outer world starts to shift. And like I said, again, it's not an overnight thing. To change the trajectory of your life, to shift the operating system from one to the other, and to change all of your choices, and to become embodied in your essence, if you've been heavily conditioned, which most people, most humans have. It's like, we've all got own different conditioning, but even on the island, this is a very free and liberal place, but there are conditions that people believe here, which create scenarios. Like, it's the same in every place, has its own conditions. And when you can move beyond those and really be centered in your own knowing of what you know to be true for you, not the person next to you, not even sometimes the people who you love. It's not about that you don't agree with them, but we all have our own blueprint and our own ways. And the more sovereign you can become in really being in those ways and taking yourself out of any energies, any discussions, any interactions, connections that don't feel in resonance, this is how you really take your power back, and you can make choices from a space that feel really authentic. So thanks for listening. I'm really happy to be here, and just keep doing you, keep showing up, keep moving through. When you start to change the trajectory of your life and put boundaries in place and have limits and have standards, people are not always happy about it, because when you take the control and power away from people, they want it back because they don't have all the control and power. You have to keep coming back to yourself. You have to know that by being the example, you're also being the example for other people to show up for themselves too. So keep going, and thanks for being here, and see you soon.